Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of As You Know with yours truly, Erin Evernham. This week on the podcast, I'm going to be speaking with one of my good friends, Brian Kemenah, 11-time All-Star Championship crew chief, 4 consecutive championships in a row. But not only that, he's a wonderful guy, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with him and hearing a little bit more about his story.
Perfection isn't easily achieved. It takes hard work, dedication, and perseverance. Through their commitment to excellence, Sage Fruit Company has been supplying customers with the best tree fruit in the Pacific Northwest for over 3 generations. They work hard on the farm, in the packing facilities, and with their retail partners to provide consistent, high-quality apples and pears all year long. Look for Sage Fruit at your local grocer.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Pretty good, Erin. How are you doing?
Good. Well, I appreciate you coming on with me today. I just want to talk about kind of all things your career, sprint cars, and have some fun. So I thought we'd get started with going back to the beginning of it. Like, how did you and your family get into racing way back when?
Well, believe it or not, when I was 10 years old, that was when my dad owned, our first family car. So, back then, a guy by the name of Al Liskey drove it, and which Brian Liskey is the announcer at Attica Raceway Park. He's been around doing it a long time, also announcing. But then every year since then, we've just raced. Like my dad had cars up through 1988, and then just raced with Mark Keegan a lot around the Attica Fremont. And then that time after that, Chad was at the age in his early 20s. We started running the All-Stars. We got Underground the UUI car as a sponsor. And John was a great car owner for realistically almost 11 years. So, yeah. And it's just crazy where times went, of all the years. And you think here, wow, I'm 57 years old here and still wake up every day wanting to win. I don't understand what's wrong with me. I hope I get better here before long.
You're spoken like a true racer. Now, did you ever drive? Obviously, you talked about your dad had cars, and I obviously know your brother drove. But did you ever race?
No, I never ever raced once in my life. Now, I did, believe it or not, in 2002. Hewitt had the 2-seater, so it was a Saturday or a Sunday at Fremont. There was the 2-seater was at Fremont, and Jack had gotten hurt. So Chad was given 2-seater rides at Fremont. I said, hey, let's do the 2-seater. We'll make some changes to the car so I can feel what it feels like. And it was a really beneficial day. I learned a lot by just taking a ride, and it was for me, it was good, but as in me ever racing, never. I have way more common sense than that.
I don't know about that. You've been around the sport a long time.
Yeah.
You mentioned getting in the car that day and just how influential that was to feel the car. We talked to other crew chiefs. I talked to Bernie Stubjen a few weeks ago on the podcast, and he talked about that racing experience himself gave him so much more of an understanding to listen to a driver's feedback and to feel the car. Is that kind of what you're speaking of?
Yes, I learned that day that loose sucks when it's dry slick, and you definitely don't want to be loose. And that's probably been a bad omen for me, because ever since then I've just always had tight race cars but I can tell you the feeling, the respect that I have for you as a driver and all other drivers. It's just crazy. I'll never forget putting the helmet on, sitting in the back and thinking, there's no room for any other cars out here. How these other guys in it, and then there's 24 other people. No way. Not for me. That's why you'll never hear me. No, not me.
That's awesome. Your years that you worked with Chad and the UUI car you were speaking of and had so much success with the All-Stars. I think you were 4 straight championships. Talk about the success then. That's when I got to know you a little bit. And you guys were just so dominant. I mean, you've always had success, but that particular time frame that you had, you guys were unstoppable.
Yeah, back then, I mean, it was crazy. Chad was getting really good in his prime. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And John gave us the best stuff. I mean, he never ever skimped on the equipment. And when you race Attica, Fremont, these areas around here, you have to be able to compete. When you win here, I feel you can go in anywhere. Mm-hmm. So then when we started going to Eldora and learning the big tracks, it got easier and better and better and better. And needless to say, I mean, it was never, I'm not going to say it was never easy. It was always hard, because you're hard on yourself because you want to win. But the success we had back then was very, very good. I think the last year we ran the All-Stars with the 15K car. I think we won 9 races that year. And then the next year we went to the Outlaws, and that's when we met you. And it's just crazy how that's 17 years ago now, 18 years ago. Where'd time go?
Yeah, I'm wondering the same thing.
Yeah,
so you worked a lot of years with your brother, and I know you guys have had a rough road, ups and downs, but what was it like? You don't see a lot of family members working together. Was there a part of you that kind of just understood each other just because you're family?
Yeah, it's family deals are tough. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just is. I mean, it's tough without racing, let alone racing. And then you put the stress of you want to do good. And I think there's no doubt in my mind through our careers of racing, I think we've raced together for almost on and off, probably 12 to 15 years. And a lot of the problems that we had was probably he felt maybe he was letting me down and I was letting him down. And you take the blame on not to put it on each other. You take the blame and you put it towards yourself. And it's just, and honestly, it's all misperceived. You know what I mean? It's just, you look back at the years, the older you get, you think, wow, you were too hard on yourself. You took the fun out of it. You know what I mean? But when you want to win and you want to be a champion, that's what champions do. They take it serious, because if you don't, you're not going to be a champion. Yeah.
And do you think that is intensified when you're working with a family member? When you're working with just any driver, you don't maybe have that much pressure on yourself? I mean, you always do, but it's probably a different level.
You're exactly right. Because I mean, even me and Shafe had a lot of very, very good success. Them 4 years that we raced together. And it was a lot of the same stuff. It's a lot of it's self-inflicted. It really is. If you could take it all back and you'd say, why didn't you just relax? You know what I mean? But in the same breath, somebody has to make the call. Somebody has to do this. Somebody has to do that. And people, I don't think, realize all the decisions that are made to put a team together from start to finish, to go up and down the road, to win, not let alone one All-Star championship, but 11 of them, in 3 different decades. I've been fortunate enough to do That's it. Amazing. I've been very, very, very blessed. I'm not going to lie to you. It's back with Fred Linder. I had a very good teacher. He taught me the cleanliness part, to do things the right way, taught me how to be a mechanic, taught me how to just maintain stuff. We didn't have the money with my dad's car to do things the right way, but we still won two All-Star championships, back when I was, might as well say, a year out of high school and 3 years out of high school. So it's kind of crazy. And we didn't have any help then. It was just more or less 2 of us.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to ask you about your mentors. Like, everybody in their life has people that have taught them important things about the sport, about life in general. I think about even my husband, Ray, like he gives so much credit to Roger Penske and Jay Signori from IROC that taught him all these systems and all these ways to do things. Who were those people? You mentioned Fred Linder, but who were the other people that were influential to you when you were just kind of getting going as a mechanic, a crew chief?
There's, Fred, I'm not going to lie to you, was my number one, because from the time when he drove my dad's car, I was at that 14, 15-year-old stage where he's teaching me how to do my schoolwork. And if I don't stay on the honor roll, you're not going to the races. And I need you. This is, back then, that's how he made his living. He taught me, he taught me how to, I hate to say it, to be a man, He was probably my number one, just because for 6 years we were together every single day. Then, then for 2 years I was with Hewitt, going to Austria.
And he was a really good mentor in a lot of ways, for sure.
He was a real good mentor. Yeah, good and bad.
That's a different show. We'll talk about the other.
That could be a very bad show here, and you better not go there. But no, it was a lot of fun that I'll never, it's just the 2 years with him, from Australia to back to the States and, back and forth. And it's like, you learn, a lot of things, you know what I mean? That you learn life. I mean, it's crazy but it's just, and then you're just blessed by all the different people that you meet. And, but I would say my number one and most important person that taught me the most to get to where I am, that would have been Fred. You know what I'm saying? Because he picked me up from school every day. I couldn't drive, so he'd pick me up and go straight to the race shop and build parts, and that's what we did. And it was crazy because really, I mean, when Johnny Bieber drove my dad's car from like 76 to 80, but then I would have been that 11, 12, 13, 14. But when I got to 15, 16, then it was like, not that John didn't teach me a lot, but Fred really taught me a lot on being on the road, from driving trucks and trailers to, I mean, just everything, taking care of and, doing a lot of stuff. So.
That's awesome. You mentioned Tim Schaefer before, your years with him. I want to talk about the 2010 Knoxville Nationals. It was a big year for me too. It was a big year for both of us, but being a part of it, that year was special for me too, to see you win the race. Like, we've been friends for a long time. And I just thought, I feel like we all know it was kind of an upset for you and Tim to go out there and kick everyone's butt like you did. Talk about that accomplishment. Is that your biggest accomplishment, your greatest accomplishment? And talk about that whole week.
Probably my biggest accomplishment, I have to put in perspective, is my wife and my daughter.
Oh yeah.
But there's nothing like winning the Knoxville Nationals. I'm very proud to say, and a lot of people don't know, but when you and Ray came to Kistler's, and I can remember Ray looking at me and he says, I want to get my wife in the Knoxville Nationals. And I said, it'll happen. We'll get her there. Did we make it happen?
We did.
And I'll never forget the feeling pushing the car back to the trailer. And after everyone was gone, two people were there, you and Ray. And that was a big day. That was a big day for me and Tim, and a big day for you and Ray. That's what a lot of people realize, the friendships that me and you have, me and Ray have. That stuff you never forget. Never.
No, absolutely not. No, I cherish our friendship. And to this day, I still wish I had the chance to work with you. I think we could have kicked some butt.
Wait a minute. Last year at Charlotte, I had a car for you to drive. And I was helping on Wayne's car, and I said, hey, we can run Jason's side second car. It's already down. And you said, no, I can't. Remember that? So don't say that.
Yes, that did happen. And Size was ready to let me hop in that car. But, I need a little more preparation for that. I mean, I'm rusty. I've been out of the seat a long time.
I'm sure you could still drive one.
Oh, goodness. So I want to talk about drivers. Obviously you work with years with your brother. You mentioned Jack Hewitt. You talk about Schaefer. Of all the drivers you work with, who would you say had the most natural talent?
Wow.
I know it's a little hard question. They're all great.
It's crazy. They're great drivers, but a kid that had a lot of talent that people don't realize, we only raced probably 2 years together, 2.5 years. I don't know if you remember a kid named Danny Hograver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He, for a kid that only raced Western Pennsylvania, he was very, 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 very good. I mean, and a great kid. And now he's, married and 3 kids, got twins. But he was very good. And Chad's got a lot of talent. Tim's got talent. I've been blessed. Kale Conley that I'm helping right now. I mean, he won a championship last year in fast. We've won all-star races with Kale. We ran second to Reitzel in the Ohio Speed League Point Championship 2 years ago. I mean, you try to surround yourself with good people, but in the same breath, when you work hard on the shop and your cars are prepared, when you go there, you're going to be competitive, And I still feel that you got to be 110% prepared or don't go,
Absolutely.
But
What are your favorite drivers to work with or characteristics? Is it a driver who just gets in there and wheels it and maybe doesn't have a lot of feedback, or is it someone who really is calculated and gives you a lot of information? Or again, is it kind of a mix of all of that?
Well, I do like feedback. I really do. That makes it easier. But I feel, I don't know why, I've been very blessed to read a race car and just fix it. You know what I mean? I watch my shock indicators a lot. I pay attention. I know everyone says you're nervous. You don't even watch, you walk in circles. Well, I do get nervous, but people don't realize I watch a race car so hard. Sometimes it's actually, I wish I could enjoy it more, but it's what I've always did. You gotta know what you're doing. So, and it's somebody's life at stake. So you try to make the right call. So it's definitely challenging sometimes, it's definitely, it's really good. Like even last year I got to race with Ian Madsen, I think 8 times. And we ran 6 top 10s in World of Outlaw races and made the Knoxville Nationals with Ian.
Yeah.
I mean, we really hit it off good for 6 or 8 races.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how blessed I am been with good race car drivers. And then, it's crazy what they say. Wow, BK, you understand these race cars, pretty neat. And now, my son-in-law is Christopher Bell. So now, I've been to New Zealand racing sprint cars with him. I've helped him on midgets. And then now we're helping his little micro program. And we have actually won a couple of micro races, and one in Oklahoma City, one in Tulsa. I think we've ran out of 8 races, 6 top 3s. So we're having a lot of fun with that little car now too.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I want to talk family in a little bit, but wanted to talk about the evolution of, I want to go a few different directions, but first I want to talk about sprint cars. Like the evolution of a sprint car hasn't been that much of an evolution, right? They're pretty simple.
Really not.
What would you say the biggest advancements have been? I'm guessing shock technology, motors, but where have you really seen sprint cars change? I mean, like you said, they really haven't changed a whole lot.
But believe it or not, the frames, other than going to a raised rail car, are realistically close to the same as they have been for 20 years. Now, when you're talking tires, that's different. You're talking engines. In the last 20 years, have gotten over 200 more horsepower. It's crazy. They used to be 750. Now they're 940. That's the biggest thing is you can use that engine to qualify, but anymore you cannot. You have got to detune so much on the engine or you're not even going to be close in the feature, So I think the engines has made, if anything, our program, our racing harder just because you better be pretty sharp with your engine on detuning. You're not going to compete,
Yeah.
So, because like you said, the cars, the wings, they've been 25 square foot for, forever. Sure, they were dish for a while and then, now they're flat, but as a whole, nothing's changed that much,
Yeah, that's so crazy.
So,
When you talk about detuning a motor, for someone who hasn't been really involved in, I don't even know, 10, 12 years now, and wasn't super mechanical, what are ways that you detune for a feature?
it's crazy. I, I mean, there's a lot of times it's only me and my wife at the racetrack. You know that.
Yeah.
And I'm busy working on the car. So, like, there's what they call reducer stacks and then change
Uh-huh.
nozzles. But the reducer stacks, I feel, are the safest and easiest because you don't really have to change your fuel. You don't
Mhm.
really have to take any fuel lines off. You can just change your more or less your air cleaner and your stacks
Yeah.
and knock down 65 to 75 horse and be pretty competitive at that. So, and it's something that she does pretty well, pretty fast.
Wow, look at her go. So
Yeah.
how long have you been doing? Is that something that you've always done, or is that more recent since the horsepower increase?
I've only been detuning, and this is crazy, but I've only been detuning probably since 2017, 2016.
Yeah.
And I should have been detuning, honestly. I didn't believe in it because I thought I'm a good enough mechanic to overcome it,
Yeah.
but I'm not. And then I realized, hey, everyone else is doing it, Brian. You better start doing it. You're never going to win.
Yeah.
So then it's just like anymore. As soon as you're done qualifying, you're trying to knock down 50, 60 horsepower, and like go to Attica last week and watch it. You could have qualified detuned. You could have qualified
Yeah.
with a 850 horse engine instead of a 950 horse engine.
And what is that fine line? Obviously it has to do with the moisture and the track and the way the track is, but how do you know, and how far do you detune?
Well, for me, I pay attention to straightaways. When you're spinning, I would say from halfway down and into the corner,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it's really critical, because if that motor, what I call breaks loose, then they're trying to drive 2 foot, getting into the corner, brake and throttle, then they can't be smooth. So as soon as I see dust and I walk out if I see straightaways hard and slick, I'm going to detune, because it's just, it doesn't hurt. It helps everything. It helps torque coming off the corner. There's detuning helps a lot. It really does. Yeah.
We talk to a lot of drivers about the feel of the car or things that they're feeling as they're driving. But one thing we don't really talk about is when we talk to crew chiefs about watching the car. And it's something I've always been fascinated with, because obviously being a driver, you can watch a car and you can say, oh, they look really loose, or, oh, they're tight. But watching a race with someone like you or some of the crew, or even with Ray at a pavement race, like he'll see stuff and I'm like, how do you know that car's tight? Like, it doesn't look like it's crazy to me what you guys see as crew chiefs, as mechanics. You see the balance of the car, way more things than I think even us drivers, or I don't even know if I classify as a driver anymore. But I just want to talk about that. Like when you're watching a car, you guys see the most like minute changes that no one in the stands that would ever even have a clue what you're looking at.
Right. For me, I'm going to, first off, look at front tires, front wheels, what direction they're pointing. And then I try to look at my left, like when the car's on the racetrack, you can tell if it's driving up the racetrack on exit or if it's loose on entrance. But then no matter what, as soon as the car comes in, even before, I don't ever get right in the driver's face and ask them questions. I like to walk around, look at my right front shock treble, look at my right rear shock treble. I always look at my shocks first, always. Mm-hmm. And then that's what I've just always done, because them little indicators, they're not very smart. They're 29 cents, but they know a lot. They know when it's down and up, and you can see what your car is doing by just watching your shock indicators,
Yeah.
That's how I've raced my whole life, but I do watch the car a lot on the racetrack, and I'm very blessed that I can, thank God, I've made a lot of good calls and won a lot of all races and won some all-star races.
Yeah, just a few.
Just a few.
Brian, what are some controversial things that have been in sprint car racing that, some people don't like to talk about, but whether it's like, was there a time, or is there a time now where tire soaking is an issue? For years on and off, people have talked about traction control. What are things that as a mechanic, as someone who works in the parts supply business, what are some things that you think over the years have been controversial?
Well, you just hit on the main ones. You know, you don't hear traction control anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you did back in 2005, 6. You know, but you don't even hear it. I work in an engine shop. You don't ever hear it. And then now this year, you hear this stuff. You know, about tire soaking, whether it's happened or not. We'll never know. You know.
Yeah.
Everyone thought me and Schaefer was cheating because we could compete with the Outlaws. All them guys thought we soaked our tires all the time, but they always took our tires. I would never cheat, you know?
Yeah.
We ran used tires, you know, we never even hardly bought new tires. We ran used ones. So, but you know, mainly that I would say is probably, you know, you're always getting people trying, you know, big engines, small engines. You know, I will say one thing, they don't pump engines anymore. So how do you know someone's not running a 430 cubic inch engine or a 415? Because nobody pumps engines anymore. I don't know if it's because they don't know how. You know, Knoxville does. You know, if you do good in Knoxville, you're going to get pumped. But, you know, nobody pumps an engine at an all-star race or an outlaw race. They just don't.
That's
so
interesting.
But they don't, though. They haven't for years.
Now, you were talking about having so much horsepower, not being able to get it to the ground. What advantage, other than qualifying, would it be to have a big motor?
Yeah, I don't think there is any advantage. I think it hurts you.
Qualifying is so important. So, yeah.
It's here. I've always said this: your night's based on 30 seconds. Yeah. After them 30 seconds of qualifying, them 2 laps, that's your whole night. That puts you in position to win.
Yeah.
You know, but after that, I just don't think that it matters. You know, I think that you better be able to detune. It's critical. Yeah.
So switching topics, you've worked for Paul Kistler for many years. What has that been like? And has it helped you being in the parts industry to help you with what you're doing, you know, at the racetrack on the weekends? And Paul's a great guy. Obviously, I've had the chance to work with him a bunch throughout my career. But talk about that aspect of your job.
Well, I've been, even before here at Paul, I worked at Kears for almost 9 years. And then now I'm here it's actually going on, it's 15 years this year. So now, you know, 15 years ago, we started this.
Wow.
And it's crazy. You know, we're very fortunate, about 50 race cars a year, Maxims. We have built complete operations for people. People don't realize when David Gravel first got started, he came here. We truck, trailer, 2 cars, 2 engines, pushed everything in his trailer, and they left for Florida. And here we are, David Gravel, 13 years later, is fighting for an outlaw championship. You know, I can remember telling Ray and telling Dave Sr., that's going to take him 15 years to be an outlaw champion. Because look at Donnie Schatz. I mean, Donnie, I mean, his first, 8 or 10 years weren't very good, but he's made up for him these last ones. I'm telling you, he's good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Speaking of, go ahead.
You're good.
Oh, I was going to move on. I was just, speaking of those drivers, I wanted to talk about the competition level now. I mean, obviously sprint car racing has always been tough. It's always been a fight for the wins, but right now it seems across the board, outlaws, all-stars, local stuff in Ohio, Midwest, even California, the competition level seems as great as I've ever seen it.
That is very true. And a lot of it is because of places like here, like we have 2 rollers to build this month. When I'm talking rollers, people will come to the track. I want you to build my car turnkey. So we're going to drop an engine in it, race it. I mean, I'm talking full titanium, the best that you can buy. It's everywhere. It's here. It's Benix. It's at Bernie's. That's me, Bernie, Scott. We're probably the 3 biggest I feel in the country that can go help build a team fast. We understand we understand the sport. And, me and Scott are the same age, almost 58 years old. I know Bernie's a little younger than us, but he does a good job. He's a go-getter, Yeah. But it's crazy. You got to be hands-on, and you don't really realize you work 7 days a week, 365 days. You're constantly working, to succeed, to be a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking, of you and Bernie and Scott and the parts industry in general, I hate to ask these questions because everyone's dealing with it right now. But we hear about parts supply chain issues, and obviously the hot topic right now is tires, and if we're going to run out or what. What is your take on all that right now?
Well, I mean, I don't like to be a negative person on anything, so I would rather not talk about it too much. I think we're all going to get through it.
Yeah.
I talked to Neil myself on Monday. I hope in here 1st of May, that we all get a allotment of right rears, and hopefully it'll get easier.
Yep.
I'm not going to be negative on it. I kind of feel bad for Hoosier. I feel bad for everyone. I mean, none of us want to be in this spot, whether it's they don't have the manpower to build it or they don't have the supply. It doesn't matter. We don't have it. It's not going to fix it. It's not going to fix hollering and screaming about it. Yeah. We just need to, maybe try to stick to one tire a night will help a lot. And I'm a fan of Brett Marks the other night, and I've said this forever. I wish they would all just go to one tire. Just everyone run a medium, and then maybe a 15 on the left rear. And then that way things don't wear as bad. I'm not saying it's the right fix, but I think it's the right direction. We have to do something different to try to make it better. We have to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your positive take on it. And I hate to even ask the question, but I also feel like sometimes, especially talking to someone who's in the industry and knows it, it's kind of the elephant in the room. So I appreciate
that's
your
good.
positive take.
It stinks because everyone wants to talk about it and everyone wants to be mad about it, but it isn't going to fix anything. It's not going to fix anything. We're all going to get through it, hopefully in 3 or 4 weeks, and if everyone's smart about it, we'll be fine. I'm going to be positive about it,
Yeah. Well, speaking of positive things, I want to talk about your family. You mentioned your son-in-law, Christopher Bell, but since I've known you, your wife and your daughter have been at the racetrack with you. And I've always admired that about you. You see so many racers on the road who, unfortunately, whether it's by control or not, their families aren't a part of what they're doing all the time. And I've always admired that about you. I have pictures of myself with your daughter from, gosh, she was so little, so it makes me feel old. But
you realize that was 2006. She was on the World of Outlaws with us for that 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have that picture. We have that picture in the house. You have the same picture.
Yep.
And you and her stand there. She would have been either 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And there you were in your driver's uniform. And it's just crazy that Morgan will be 25 next Wednesday. 25. I'm a lucky dad. She was very smart, graduated third in her class, never was in any trouble, was all sports her whole, all the way through from 6th grade up. I mean, from cheerleading to volleyball to track. She was always busy. Stacy was always there coaching her.
Yeah.
Stacy was a coach for 4 years, I think, in high school, and her cheer coach. And then, people don't realize ever since Morgan's been gone, the last 7 years, Stacy helps me every single night in the garage. I mean, she literally, from washing the trucks and trailers and building front ends. And
that's awesome.
I mean, last night there we were, working on everything, and I'm watching her cleaning the air cleaners and cleaning the nozzles when I'm doing the bars and the drive line, and never says a word, just keeps right on working. It just,
that's
the nail's
awesome.
all done. And you know how it is. It's just, and here you go. We're not kids anymore. I'm pushing 60 and she's 52. It's like, I got to start giving her a break. I mean, she's going to start charging me here before long.
That's awesome. But truly, I think that's one thing I've really always admired about you is your family's always been close, and you're just wonderful people. But, I have to ask you, so Morgan has probably found one of the nicest race car drivers in the world to marry, but was there a not like a you couldn't date drivers rule? Because I know Ray's kind of already set that in place for our daughter.
It was actually crazy because, she's, I can remember like guys like Tim Schaefer saying, BK, man, I'm not liking all these boys around the car. And this is when she's 14, 15. I'm like, Tim, I don't know. He goes, man, I mean, she's here working. She does fuel. She does tires. We can't have anybody messing with our crew girl, you know? And I'm like, but Tim, I mean, I can't tell her no. You know what I mean? It's like, and then I'll never forget. She was 16. Christopher was 18. And she's like, Dad, have you heard of Christopher Bell? And I'm like, yeah. Do you mind if he comes over for dinner tomorrow on Sunday? And needless to say, here we go. It's 7-8 years later, and they've been married for 2.5 years now. And he's the best son-in-law that I could ever have.
Yeah. What has that been like, the journey of being a father-in-law? You have a wonderful daughter, a wonderful son-in-law, but your son-in-law is not just any average guy. He's one of the best race car drivers probably in the world right now. He's racing in NASCAR Cup Series. And I know for us sprint car racers, that's not the end all be all, but it's still pretty darn impressive. And to be a part of that through Morgan, to go to the Cup races, to see the stuff that Christopher's doing, how cool is that as a father-in-law?
It's incredible. It's actually breathtaking. Sometimes I sit back and say, you're a lucky dad. And I really am. I mean,
yeah.
And the time that me and him get to spend together. And we love the same thing. We love racing. That's what it is. He loves the same thing that I love. I mean, we wake up in the morning, sometimes texting each other at 8:15 in the morning. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
And it just don't stop. It's been I just look at time and I look at Morgan that turning 25 next week. And I'm like, my daughter's not little anymore. She's a woman, it's crazy,
Yeah. So I know we had talked for years that eventually the plan might be to move to old stock car country to North Carolina. Is that still part of you and Stacy's plan?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. For sure.
Cool. Well, I think that we're pretty good. I wanted to ask you a few quick, rapid fire questions. I thought it would be fun.
Okay.
So here we go. What is your favorite truck stop?
Loves.
All right. What about your favorite track food?
Chili dog.
What track is it from?
Attica's chili dogs are pretty good.
I knew there was. What's your favorite hotel chain on the road?
Probably the Holiday Inn Express. Because you're so smart when you stay there. You're smart in the morning when you wake up.
Yeah, and you do get the continental breakfast.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
What's your favorite fast food on the road?
I'm going to stick with Wendy's.
I was going to say, you don't go wrong. I knew this answer.
You say, hold on here. We've ate Wendy's a lot together. You know that.
We did have a lot of Wendy's together. What about your favorite car wash? Is there a favorite car wash in the country that you'd like to go to?
Boy, there's one right there on 224 outside of Tiffin it's only maybe 5 years old, and it is so bright. The lights are good. Water's hot, and soap is incredible. Oh. So it's crazy how you look for the best car washes. It's nuts, but it's just weird when you think of them things, but it's what racers do.
Yeah.
Am I right or not? That's
why I kind of thought about doing this rapid fire. These are only questions you could ask sprint car people, because everyone else is like, what the heck are you talking about?
Oh, I know. It's awesome. That's a number of good questions.
Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. I've always admired you, and I look forward to our paths crossing in the future.
Erin, thank you for the time. I really appreciate all our years and friendships together with Ray and yourself, and helping you make the Knoxville Nationals in 2010 was very, very important for me too.
Yes.
And it was really very, very awesome. So
it was.
I'm sure we're going to have a lot of time together when we get down in North Carolina. I promise you that.
That's awesome. Maybe if you need a driver in one of those micros, maybe I can get back behind the wheel in a micro.
Be careful what you ask for.
I could open a bag of worms here, a can of worms. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Go take care of your customers you have coming to pick up a car, whatever it was you said earlier.
They're actually standing right outside the door. So
I
appreciate your time. I appreciate your time, and tell Ray I said hello, and thank you again very much.
Will do. Talk to you soon. Thank you, Brian.
Bye.